Greetings from Faith Assembly of God, Smiths Grove, Kentucky. We are reachable snail mail, P.O. Box 331, Smiths Grove, Kentucky, 42171. And we're also on the computer at KYFINGERS@AOL.com. That's Kentucky Fingers at AOL.com. We're sorry we haven't been with you for a couple of weeks. We've had scheduled conflicts. We've had doctor's appointments and PET scans and all of that. We are thankful to report to you today that our PET scans showed no lymphoma whatsoever. You know, and just a quick review. The weekend before Memorial Day last year, I complained to the doctor that my shoulder was hurting while I was getting my prescriptions renewed, and they x-rayed and they found my clavicle, the bone from here to here, was broken. And they told me, I said, what do I do? They said, wear a sling. I can't stand a sling on it. It hurts it even more. And on my way home from the doctor, they called on our cell phone and said, don't go home. Go straight to the hospital. Your room is already open. Your bed's ready. They're waiting on you right now. And then the next day, the doctor told us his guesstimate that it was cancer. And that was before they ran tests. Memorial Day weekend, PET scan medicine comes out of Nashville. And they couldn't get it till after Memorial Day, so we were in the hospital, bedfast in the hospital. I mean, it just really hit, and the PET scan revealed cancer, and they called it stage 4. I asked the doctor, and he said, you know, I'm not God. There's no way, I don't know. And I said, yeah, but you see this every day. Can you tell me? And he said, well, my guesstimate would be 3 months. And here we are, what, a year and 2 months out. We spent 3 months in the hospital and rehab, had to learn to walk again, was not allowed to eat solid food. They grind it. I call it mush. What's the right word, Larry? Mush. Pureed or something like that. And I wasn't allowed to eat in a room by myself. And we've been on quite a journey. I will tell you, I have not missed one service preaching or playing my guitar. And let me tell you about yesterday. We usually try not to date our material so it'd be good, but yesterday was Father's Day, and I got to dedicate my great, I have 3 great-grandchildren. I got to dedicate my newest, his name is Wade Maddox. They keep the Wade M going, so he is the 5th Wade M. My dad, me, my son, and his son, Wade M. Hughes, and he's going to go by Maddox. And I think, Larry, 4 months old, something like that. And I got to dedicate him, and the in-laws on the other side, and had a beautiful time dedicating. And most of you know, I do a New Testament. I write on every page. I draw where John the Baptist is baptizing Jesus. I've got them waist deep in water, and all through when it talks about a light, I draw a kerosene lamp or a candle or whatever, and we presented him with that, and we presented him with a Fender Telecaster ukulele, and of course he's 4 months old, and I had the privilege of sitting on the altar, and my oldest great granddaughter, the first of the greats, and her dad, which is my grandson, and my other grandson, Grant, they played the ukuleles, which they don't really play, but they played and sang with us. I was really amazed as we were going out of church. My 6-year-old grandson, Grant, is my oldest son's baby. He's 6 years old. He said, "Paul, if you ever need a fill-in for a preacher, feel free to call me, and I will preach for you." You probably, those that's on Facebook have seen some of his prayers and things like that. But we're back with you today. We are in the war room. For the last year, I come sometimes. I came every day before the sickness, but I just don't feel like I do my praying at home. I like to do my praying at church because this is supposed to be the house of prayer, but I do come occasionally to the church early in the morning and pray, but as a whole, I get up, I read my Bible, and I come back and sit down and do my praying there at the house. I would ask a special prayer request. We have been having fluid together in the bottom of our lungs, and that makes it difficult breathing or short of breath, and it really affects me at nighttime. 3 o'clock in the morning, say from 3 to 7 o'clock in the morning, I just can't hardly get my breath. My doctor went on vacation, and I haven't got the official report yet, but that's here, and we have Mr. Larry Carter on the other side of the camera. He would be very capable of sitting on this side of the camera teaching, but he knows how to maintain those things. But I have a cut from the here all the way down to here, chondrosarcoma, and then I have a cut, different surgery. I have a cut from the base of my skull, 3/4 of the way down my back. They took my C7 and my T1 vertebra out of my back and put plastic spacers in, and I wasn't allowed hardly to do anything. I will report to you that, contrary to Linda's desires, the first time, and now she just knows I'm going to do it, I mowed the grass here at church 4 times. There's 3 acres that we mow, and my pride and joy is the cross on the property there. And I do have some things I want to say, and it's not about me, it's about the Lord. I want to talk to you about sometimes our problems are what brings the blessings. Let's call it blessings in disguise, or obstacles versus opportunities. You allow me to take a sip of water, and we will be going to Philippians chapter 3, verse 1. And Larry, I for today, there I just have it in the Message. I will be reading it out of King James too. I added that, the King James part. When I've done this, most of us are very familiar with the King James, but watching this, there's some that's not. So Philippians 3, verse 1, I press towards the mark of the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. Let us therefore, as many as be perfect, be thus minded, that if in anything ye be otherwise minded, God shall reveal even this unto you. Nevertheless, whitherto we have already attained, let us walk by the same rule. Let us mind the same thing. Brethren, be followers together of me, and mark them which walk also, as ye have it for example. For many walk, of whom I have told you often, now tell you even weeping, that they are enemies of the cross, whose end is their destruction, whose God is their belly, whose glory is in their shame, who minds earthly things. If you would permit me, I'm going to go to Philippians 3, verse 14 in the Message. It says, I'm often running and I'm not turning back. I love that. I'm often running and I'm not turning back. So let us keep focus on the goal, those of us who want everything God has for us. If any of you have something else in mind, something less than a total commitment, God will clear your blurred vision. You shall see it yet. Now that we are on the right track, let us stay on it. Stick with me, friends. Keep track of those that you see running the same course, headed for the same goal. There are many out there taking other paths, choosing other goals, and trying to get you to go along with them. I've warned you of them. I've warned you of them many times. Sadly, I'm having to do it again. All they want is easy street. They hate Christ's cross. But the easy street is a dead end street. Those who live there make their bellies their God, belches are their praise, and all they can think of is in their appetites. I think of the verse that says, you've run well. What hinders you? I want us, though, to look at what appears to be an obstacle is could be an opportunity. What appears to be very bad could be a blessing in disguise. Larry, I don't know. I did change my notes around. Next would be Exodus 2:3. Is you got that? I didn't know if on your copy we had changed that or not. God has a plan, and God, of course, we go to Romans 8:28, and we know that all things work together for the good of them that love the Lord, to call it according to his purpose. We know that. But sometimes while we're in the midst of the storm, we can't see good. Larry's been teaching us on Job in Sunday school, and man, what a lesson there is there of what appears to be bad, and the end is really God going to show his stuff and show the enemy up. I want to go to Exodus 2 verse 3, and I want to talk about this family that's living in a very difficult time. You think we're living in a difficult time. There is a requirement in Egypt that every baby boy be killed. Every baby boy be killed. When the midwives deliver a boy, it is their job to kill and destroy that baby. Linda and I had the opportunity of being in Israel, and we saw where, remember when the mean, bad king ordered all the babies 2 years old and younger killed? There is a place where there's an altar built over hundreds of little baby boys' skeletons. Not one girl in the midst. That's where the mean king had. And here we are, we're facing a very difficult time in Egypt. And is this very bad time a very bad time, or is it really a blessing in disguise? God takes very bad stuff and shows his strong hands. There was a couple named Jochebed and Amram, and they have an older boy, Aaron. They have an older daughter named Miriam, and along comes this beautiful little baby that appears to be a blessing from God, and yet Pharaoh has ordered the death. And how do you hide diapers hanging out on the clothesline? How do you hide going to Walmart and getting Pampers? How do you hide that? And they hid this little baby boy the best they could, as long as they could. And one day it comes to Jochebed and Amram that it's out of our hands. We can't hide them anymore. And Jochebed and Amram start weaving a basket, little baby canoe-like thing to put the baby in. And I oftentimes have asked when I preach about Jochebed and Amram, I often ask what was the main ingredient, what was the main material in making that basket. And I come to the conclusion, I believe there was hundreds of tears, maybe thousands of tears interwoven in that basket. And as Mama is weaving the basket, and she pitches and makes it waterproof, and she prepares, no doubt she took her beautiful little baby boy Moses and would lay him in the basket and try. You know, sometimes in the work of God we become basket cases. I can remember several times in the Bible. Remember when the two spies were hid by Rahab? They were basket cases. their lives was in the basket as they led them over the wall. I recall a time when there was people that wanted to kill Paul, and they wanted to, they couldn't, but Paul didn't know at the time. They put him in a basket. History tells us that Paul was a heavy man. I don't know who held the rope and let Paul down over the wall. I don't know who did that, but I appreciate. And for some reason, the Bible does not list the names of the individuals that held his basket as they led him down over the wall. But Paul, I think, knew the names as he was going down over the wall and looking up at the people, holding the ropes, letting him down. There are times in ministry and there's times in life that we become basket cases, that all our hope seems gone, all of our peace is gone, seems like there's rest. I believe God, John 14:26, I believe God gives rest to his people, but I also know that there's times, I've learned this in the battle with cancer, there are times that sleep eludes you. I believe when sleep eludes you, I believe that it's a time to pray. And I have disciplined myself. This morning, about 3 o'clock this morning, when I was having trouble getting my breath, I sat up and I prayed. It's a golden opportunity in the silence of the night to pray. But I believe as Amram and Jochebed, as they made this basket, and I believe they prayed over that basket. I believe they had prayed for several months over this beautiful little baby boy named Moses. I believe that. Exodus 2:3. And when she could not no longer hide him. Boy, what a heartbreak that'd be for a mom to know that. Oh, God. She took for him an ark of bulrushes, and she daubed it with slime and with pitch, and she put the child therein. She doesn't know what's going to happen. We know the rest of the story, which sort of runs the story. You go and put this baby in the basket in the Nile River, where there's, I believe there was crocodiles, it might have been alligators, I don't know, but where there was a threat not only of external things, but there's a threat that that basket's going to turn over, there's a threat that baby's going to drown, and she laid it in the flags by the river's brink. And his sister, Miriam, stood afar off to the wit of what would be done to him. Looks bad, doesn't it? It's a blessing in disguise. Just so happens at that time that Pharaoh's daughter and her entourage was down by the river swimming, taking their baths, whatever it is that they would do. And somebody heard this little crying, and they found the basket, and they got the basket out. And you talk about first love, eye contact. Pharaoh's daughter fell in love with this beautiful little baby boy. And what appeared to be the end was just the beginning. I think it's so funny that Pharaoh paid for Amram and Jochebed to take the baby back in their home and breastfeed the baby. Only a Jew could get paid for breastfeeding their own baby. And at weaning time, I believe God took those probably first 5 years. We don't know exactly, but there was no Gerber, there was no Similac with iron and all of those things. It probably a baby breastfed till about 5 years of age. And in those 5 years, this mom and dad, Miriam and Aaron, instilled in that little lad some lessons about God that would never leave him. And though he goes to the palace, and though all the teachings at the palace is probably contrary to what God wanted, so for 35 more years, Moses lives in the palace, and Pharaoh pays for the education of the child that he ordered killed. I'm telling you that he learned stuff in the palace that he would have never learned at home. He learned language skills, he learned people skills, he learned all of these things. And now it's really looking good, isn't it? And one day, Pharaoh's out in his 5.0, not Pharaoh, Moses is out in his 5.0 Mustang or horse and chariot or whatever. He sees how mean people can be, and I don't know that he intended to, but he killed a man and buried him, and we switch gears. And what seems to be bad, APB out by the Egyptian law enforcement officers, looks like it's over, Moses. You have messed up your life. You have messed up God's plan for you. You've messed everything up. And it looks terrible. No, it's a blessing in disguise. Why? Moses has to go to the desert. I believe it's referred to as the backside of the desert. And Moses is going to learn some lessons in the desert that he would have never learned at his mom's knee, or that he would have never learned in Pharaoh's house. First off, he lost his comfort. And here he's always having to watch over his back for that. He learns to take up for the underdog while he's there in the backside of the desert. And he gets married. And in the marriage there, one day Moses leaves his tent. Again, it looks terrible. Here, all this preparation of life is wasted in taking care of sheep in the backside of the desert. I couldn't tell you how many times Moses probably stepped in sheep stuff and had to scrape it off the bottom of his feet. And I believe there was times he said, God, what on earth are you doing? What on earth are you doing? This is terrible. This is terrible. And one day, his wife packs him lunch, and he's going to work, and I believe he had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in the bag, and maybe some Kool-Aid and stuff, and he left the tent, and he's never going to be the same again. The first 40 years, Moses thought he was hot stuff. The second 40 years, he feels like he's a nobody. And while he's out taking care of the sheep and everything, he just happens to notice a bush over there that was aflame. And he he notices the bush is not consumed, and he has an encounter that's going to change, a personal encounter that's going to change the rest of his life. His personal encounter is going to be with God. And he finds out who God is. He said, "Who are you?" And he says, "I am." I'm told in the original, I'm not smart enough to, I just read this. I am in the original means to inhale and exhale. The great God of the giver of life. Remember when God leans over Adam, and he breathes into him the great I am, the inhale and exhale, and gave the breath of life. And Moses is going to have an encounter that will change the rest of his life. Of course, he's going to offer excuses. I can't talk good. I stutter. I have a speech impediment. God says, okay, I can handle that. And God sends Aaron out to minister to him. But here, it's just one bad thing after another bad thing after another bad thing after another bad thing, until we come to the encounter, a personal encounter with God. And I'm asking you, in the name of Jesus Christ, to realize where you're at today. And it may look bad. It may look hopeless. It may be helpless. The president can't help you. The governor can't help you. All of these things that's going on. I will tell you that my God reigns and my God turns things around. And Miriam's standing by the river to see what happens to her little baby brother. And we find the plan of God back from the river and now from the desert. And God is going to take all this negative stuff and God's going to turn it all around. Whether it be the river or whether it be the desert, God's going to turn it all around. And God calls him. Romans 8:28. Moses would testify to you today. And we know that all things work together for the good of them that love the Lord, are called according to his purpose. The Message says it this way. That's why we can be sure that every detail in our lives of the love of God is worked into something good. I believe that. I believe I'm a better man today than I was before the battle with cancer. It says in Psalm 68, verse 1, let God arise. Let would be to give permission. Give God permission to arise and scatter the enemies. Let them also that hate him flee before him. All of this bad stuff that we've been going through, and some of you listening to me have experienced death. You've been to the funeral home. You've lived in the hospital. The doctor's reports, the whispering of people around you, the negative stuff. I need nobody to feed my negative giant. I can feed it myself. But I want to tell you something. God has a plan, and what looks like defeat. Look what Psalm 68:1 says in the Message. David's Psalms, up with God. Down with the enemies. Adversaries run for the hills. My God's in control. And our situation, we have a friend we asked you to pray for in the Amazon area. 40 years he's worked as a missionary there. He plans on dying there. He's already told them where to dig the grave and plant him. He's 86 years old. There's all kinds of issues going on in the mission work there in Bolivia. If you would pray for him, his name is Harry Spears. If you would pray for him, he wants to see the work of God advance even when he's gone. We have a friend over someplace named Keith Hornback doing a terrible battle with cancer. It looks bad, but by faith, whose report are you going to believe? Let me tell you something. You cannot live by your emotions or what other people say. We probably live in a moody day. Even in the church, pastors have trouble with people, their moods, or playing games with their minds. We go by feelings. I listen on Sirius Radio 111. I listen to Dr. Laura, and she tells how you can't go by feelings. Somebody will say, I feel this, and she said, that's hogwash. You can't go by how you feel. Your emotions will play games with you. There's one test, and that's eternity. I fear parents today are teaching their children all these physical things, how to take baths and how to keep their clothes clean and how to go to school and how to do math and and they leave out the weightier things of eternity. A big part of whether that child goes to heaven or hell is going to be some of the teachings that has gone, and we'll train them up. It will, I believe good comes out of bad. I tell you a story here. I woke up one night years ago praying for this family that I had not seen in several years. I had talked to them on the phone many times, but I felt God tell me, you need to go to Pennsylvania. You need to go to Pennsylvania. So I told my wife that day, babe, pack my suitcase and my guitar and stuff. I'm going to Pennsylvania. Every day she would get up and say, you going today? And I said, no, I'm not going today. And the next day she'd ask, and the next day, several weeks passed. And I felt this urge to go to Pennsylvania, but not to go right now. And one day I went to the rest home. Larry was there. We played music. And after that, I came home and I told Linda, now. And we loaded my suitcases. We loaded my guitars up. And I left for Pennsylvania. About Louisville, I got one of those killer headaches, migraines. And I thought, I'll turn around and go back home. And then I thought, no, listen to what God's telling you. And so I got hung up in traffic in Louisville. I got hung up in traffic in Cincinnati. And I always have Tylenol or something in the car, and I couldn't find it. I pulled over in Cincinnati, near where I was born. I pulled over and stopped at a gas station, got some Tylenol or Advil or whatever it was they had in a drink. And I called Linda and I said, Linda, I believe my head's hurting so bad, I'm going to get a motel room and I'll go on tomorrow or I'll come home tomorrow. And I took the medicine and still this terrible headache. But I felt like through all of this bad stuff, there was something good. And I went to Wheeling, West Virginia, and on up near Pittsburgh, Indiana, Pennsylvania. Somebody says, make up your mind, Indiana, Pennsylvania. There's a city in Pennsylvania named Indiana. And I didn't call the people that I was coming, that my friend was very sick. I didn't call them. I didn't until I got about 15 minutes away from their house. And I called them and I told them that I would be at their house in about 15 minutes. They were all crying. And I pulled in at their house, was welcomed like a king, took my guitar in, and they had just brought home my friend. They just brought him home under hospice, and they gave him hours to live. He was very aware when I got there. We laughed some, we cried some, we played the guitar some, and it was so amazing that for several weeks I said I was going. And the day that they brought him home, I hadn't talked to him in several months. The day that they brought him home was the day I walked in the door. We stayed and laughed and recalled the past and played the guitar and sung, and his daughters, his wife, his in-laws, some of the grandchildren was all gathered around. And 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I laid my guitar down and I put it up, and I went to the motel and I slept for a few hours, and I had to come home. And this weekend, and I needed to go to be here to preach. And I had to drive by their house. I drove by the house, and when I went in, the hospice nurse was there, and a series of shots was begun, and he was no longer aware, and I saw that he was dying, and I stayed there with the family. Again, we laughed, we cried, we played the guitar, we sang the old songs, and then he died. I don't remember. It was still daylight when he died, and we hugged them all, and I left and headed towards home. I got home late Saturday night. I preached Sunday morning and Sunday night, and they called and asked if I would come back. His funeral would be Tuesday, and the wake Tuesday, and his funeral would be Wednesday. And they asked if I would come back and preach his funeral, and what an honor it was. In 5 or 6 days, I traveled 2,600 miles driving. I believe that the Holy Spirit knew the day that my friend was going to die, and had me there. I couldn't have planned it. I couldn't have made it work any better. I serve the great I am. I serve the God that inhales and exhales, and that every breath I've got. Let's go, if you would, to, I'm going to skip, Larry, to Genesis 35:18. They're talking about good and bad. There's this lady that had been cheated all of her life. Her name's Rachel. She had a sister named Leah. You know the story that Leah married Jacob and had 10 kids. And Jacob worked 7 more years, and it seemed like nothing. Seemed like nothing that the time went by so quick. And he married Rachel, and Rachel could not have any kids. Leah made fun of Rachel. They were sisters, but Rachel had a hard time. She was bitter. She was hurt. Life had been cruel to her. And she has a son named Joseph. And, you know, Joseph is going to be one of those guys that faces bad stuff, but the bad stuff was good stuff. And here Rachel is dying in Genesis 35:18. And it came to pass, as her soul was departing, for she was dying, that she called the name of the son that she was delivering Benoni. Let's understand something. She's coming from a position of hurt and bitterness, and life's been cruel to her. Her sister had all these kids, and she couldn't have any. And finally, she has Joseph and Benoni and Benoni. And the father says, Jacob says, Israel says, no, you're not going to call that boy Benoni. We're going to call his name Benjamin. Benoni means the son of great pain. Benoni means a life of disappointment. Rachel's been hurt. She's lived in pain. She's been disappointed. People have made fun of her, her own family. Dark clouds have been all around her, so she wants to name her son Heavy. All this darkness. And Jacob refuses that name. He says, no. I understand where you're coming from, Rachel, but we're not going to put all that negative stuff that you went through off on your children. And Jacob names him Benjamin. Benjamin means hope. Benjamin means the hope of Israel. Benjamin means the son of my right hand. Benjamin means God is with us and we're going to make it. I ask us today that if we'll, by faith, say we're going to make it. 14 months later, then we're going to make it. I don't know that I'm cancer free. I don't know. This could be my last lesson. I could play my guitar the last time. I could be with my family the last time. But I want to tell you, in the name of Jesus Christ, you can make it. Our hope is not in doctors, cardiologists. I have a pacemaker right here. I've had it, what, Larry, 2 months, something like that. I have a pacemaker. My heart is not working right. I believe that you're invincible till God is done with you. And I believe that this storm that you've been in, some of you say, I'm not in a storm. Buckle your belts, honey. You're getting ready to go into a storm. We go through a storm, then we go through a peaceable time, but we can't allow the bitterness of life to define our life. We can't allow that. We just can't allow that. Remember Judges 14, verse 5? Samson is going with his mom and dad to someplace, and there's a terrible, bad storm. There is a lion that the intent of the enemy is that that lion kills Samson and his mom and dad. It's not going to happen. The Spirit of the Lord come upon Samson in a mighty way, verse 6. The Spirit of the Lord comes upon him, and he rents, he kills that lion like it was a goat. And he didn't tell his mom and dad about it. The point that I'd like to make here is in the problem is the solution. A few days later, Samson and his mom and dad's walking through the same area, and Samson, they're hungry, they're weak, they're tired, they've gone through it all, and Samson goes to the carcass of the dead lion, and there was honey. Out of the problem comes the source of the answer of strength. Out of your problem today, if you'll hang on, if you'll keep digging your well, if you'll kill the lion, and he eats and gains strength, and he takes to his mom and dad, and they eat the honey that was in the dead lion's body. He didn't tell them where it come from. That's in verse Judges 14, verse 8. God provided provisions in the midst of the problem. My time's come and gone, and I want to tell you that I've got to tell you, hang on a little longer. God's in control, and God's made a way of escape. That's 1 Corinthians 10, verse 13. No temptation is common, what you're going through. We're all going through, but God is faithful. God is faithful. God will make a way for you, and we will close in Psalms verse 30, verse 5. For his anger endures but for a moment. In his favor is life. Weeping may endure for the night, but joy comes in the morning. I got to sit on the altar yesterday with my great grandchildren. Got to sit on the altar with them, and they played music. They're Presley is, would you say 4, Larry? Something like that. And she played her little ukulele, and she didn't really play. It's by faith. Someday, if the world goes on, may they pick up my cross, the music, and touch other people. I'm asking you to look ahead. The best is yet to come. I'm not saying we're not going to cry through the night. I'm not saying that. But sometimes the worst thing that could ever happen to you could be the best thing that ever happened to you. I'd like to thank Mr. Larry Carter on the other side of the camera. And we always ask two things. You've never heard us ask for a dollar. If it's an AI thing, we're not going to ask for a dollar. We just depend on God to make a way. But we asked, number one, if at all possible, could you pass this on to somebody else? Somebody else is going through a dark night, and it's a blessing in disguise. But our main thrust of everything we do is if you don't know Jesus Christ is your Savior, or if you're backslidden, or if you're drifting away, would you get on fire for Jesus Christ and be consumed with the zeal of the Lord? Accept Jesus Christ as your Savior and meet us in heaven. God's directing your path. God's given us opportunities of service. What you're going through may seem bad, but God promised if you'll be faithful, He'll help take care of it. Thank you, Mr. Larry Carter. Thank you for everybody that watches, and the double blessing on those that pass it on to somebody else. You can do it. You can make it. Yeah, we fell. Yeah, we made mistakes. Yeah, we've cried through the night. But joy comes in the morning. May God richly bless you.